Evening all. We're now 2,700 miles into my ownership of my Orange 2017 Z1000sx, and now that the hysteria of a brand new bike has worn off, and I've lived with it for now 4 months, I thought we'd give maybe a bit of an updated review that sort of reflects ownership of the SX. So where do we start? So, yep, collected it in January, in the heart of our wet winter that we get in Northern Ireland. Oh look, suicidal drivers. Ran it in probably for about 800 miles rather than 600 because I just had to ride it instead of have it sitting waiting for the time to tick away. I'm just back from a 600-mile tour last week, where I did the west of Ireland with my son and a friend of mine, and you'll see I have a few videos up covering some aspects of that trip. So let's look at what we have. So we have a sports tour. So how did it get on as a sports tour? Well, I've had an Airhawk seat from day one, so I'm afraid my comfort thoughts don't really reflect the standard seat. But with the Airhawk on, 600 miles, 3 days, absolutely no problem. We were stopping every hour and a half, the way you sort of do on touring. But at no time did I feel that it was time to stop. The stops were more gauged by the guys I was riding with and their need to stop rather than me needing to stop. So the riding position, I'm 5'6". I suppose there's a slight bit of weight on my wrists, but with my screen set on the middle position, the wind is hitting me in the chest. There's a bit of wind noise, granted, but with the wind hitting me in the chest, it's very comfortable. I say no pressure on the wrists, no sore wrists. The throttle's nice and light, so no sore wrists from having to do that. I do have the throttle assist on it, which you can see just down here, and that certainly makes all the difference for the value of £2 or £3. Just get out here. So that was the touring side. Yep, definitely comfortable. No issues with time in the saddle. So what about the sports side? A lot of the roads down south in the west of Ireland so you have a combination of very good roads, nice wide roads that probably are about 13 or 14 meters wide, with a hard shoulder on the left hand side that people who are resident in the south are very obliging and pull in and basically let you past. So you've big wide roads where average speeds, where we maybe did a couple of hours at certainly the national speed limit, and overtaking in the SX in 6th gear, there really isn't any need. In an ordinary riding scenario where you're just rolling on, rolling off the throttle, there's no real need to be knocking down gears and getting on like an idiot. It rolls from 60 to beyond for overtaking speeds with absolute ease. The engine's so tractable, so flexible, that the sports touring side of it works very well. Now we also have a combination of the twisty, what would be the R roads. So those are the N primary routes. The R roads are a bit more twisty, and there's a few videos like my one from my one to Pontoon, which had some really nice R-roads. So the purely sports side of the bike, when you start knocking up and down gears, when you start, it turns very well into bends. There seems to be a bit of a there's a wee bit of a funny spot, maybe from about 10 to 20 degrees, where it just sort of drops in, and then you gotta just lay it on in. It doesn't sound, I haven't explained it very well. So it's maybe to do with the stock tires. So whenever these Bridgestone S20s are ready for replacement, I'm not quite sure what I'm going to go for. I've previously had Michelin Pilot 4s, which I really enjoyed, and a lot of SX owners on the forums seem to be putting on a very good wet weather tire. Two different materials for the centre of the tread, and the edges, the centre of the tread is high silica content for wear, and the outsides are a bit softer for grip. Great tire. A lot of guys also recommend the Metzler, I think they're MO1s. So at 2,700 miles, I'm still at least a couple of thousand miles away from worrying about that yet. Fuel consumption, which I suppose people ask about and people are interested in. I've never actually done a fuel consumption test, as in brimming tank to brimming tank and taking the miles, but the onboard showing, let me have a look, it's showing 49.2. It usually hovers 47 to 49, so I've no objections to that. I suppose from a realistic point of view, range wise, I would generally run the tank down about 150 miles, and the wee range meter thing tells me I still have 50 or 60 to go. So I would say you could comfortably do 180, 190 miles on a tank, you know, and still have enough space to go and find a petrol station 15-20 miles away. Stability wise, yes, it has been reportedly made wider, and I have to say you don't really feel any wind in your legs, so there's certainly a good bit of protection there. The mirrors are wider than on the 2013, so that's definitely a big use when you're planning overtakes, when you're coming back in over overtakes, or as I was, keeping an eye on the couple of guys that were with me on the tour, just making sure we didn't get too far apart and things like that. As you see from other videos, I have replaced the exhausts on the bike with a pair of Lextech XP8Cs, and I'm very pleased with them. I've no idea if they make any additional power. I know certainly they're definitely lighter than stock exhausts, but again, this bike's fast enough for me without me worrying about an extra 1 or 2 horsepower, to be quite honest with you. So the bike's stable, it's planted, it's quick, it's comfortable. Now, from one of my earliest videos, I had talked about one of the reasons for changing was to give my pillion a bit more comfort. She and I have done a couple of sort of 150, 175 mile days, and I have bought her an Airhawk pillion. The first day we did the 150 without it, she didn't have any issues. We were still stopping every hour and a half for a cup of tea or bite of lunch, and then when I put the Airhawk on, we still were stopping at the same period, hour and a half. So it was more for just a break rather than having to get off the bike because of comfort. But she has found the pillion seat comfortable both ways, both with the standard seat and with the Airhawk. The thing with the Airhawk, I suppose, my goodness, poor dog. The thing with the Airhawk, I suppose, is it does give her maybe a 1/4 of an inch, maybe even half an inch additional leg room on the back seems very little, but if any of you have ever ridden pillion for any length of time, you can certainly do with all the space you can get when you're on the back. So she likes to hold on to the grab handles, but I also bought one of those belts that goes around your stomach, that she can hold on to. So what I found was the best way of using those was if I was going to go in for a bit of an overtake, or needing to knock down the gears for a bit of acceleration, I'd give her leg a couple of taps, wait until she got on the handles, do my overtaking stuff, pull back in, give her another couple of taps in the leg, and then she would just get back onto the grab rails again. It's a system we fell into, and it seems to have worked. It seems to work pretty well. Well, I suppose I have to give a bit of a shout to my dealer, which is Motor Plus Kawasaki up in Coleraine. Lawrence and the guys up there have provided superb customer service. They really have. I dropped the bike at 0 miles an hour a few weeks back. Rode straight up to Coleraine to see would they have a clutch lever. They didn't have one in stock, so they took one off a brand new bike. Didn't charge me for fitting, just charged me for the lever. Anytime you go in, as soon as you get your helmet off, the kettle's on and there's a cup of tea made for you. Friendly guys. Once you buy a bike off them, anything else you buy off them, merchandise wise, parts, etc., they will give you a bit of discount. So all in all, thumbs up to Motor Plus. They're one of the UK's, I think they're called a premier dealer, and in truth it's pretty easy to see why. I'm sure they sell thousands of bikes, well not thousands of bikes, hundreds of bikes a year. They seem to remember everybody by name. If I'm chatting to them, they're asking about my son when I'm on the phone, so it seems to be more than just a show. They are genuinely interested in guys that ride bikes. So hats off to Motor Plus Kawasaki in Coleraine. Well, they also actually fitted the exhausts for me. Now the exhausts weren't really recommended by Lextech because of a previous issue with one of the guys on the forum, and I made Motor Plus aware of the potential issue, and they tweaked the exhausts that they redirected the exhaust gases as efficiently as possible and underneath the pannier, so there wasn't any risk of the panniers getting affected by heat. I did a couple of hundred miles. I did 400 miles actually with them with the baffles out. Sound pretty good, as you've heard from some of the videos, and there's absolutely no heat transferred. So all in all, 2,700 miles in, would I recommend the Z1000sx wholeheartedly? Yes, sports tours are a compromise, so it's not a balls out scratcher. The steering's probably a bit slow for that, but then neither am I. It's not a Harley Dynaglide or an R1200 RT, but then again, that's not really what I want from a bike. I had that in a V-Strom 650, great bike, loved it, just fancied moving somewhere between the touring and the sports side, and the Z1000sx fulfills it absolutely perfectly. What I did notice, and what I will get done, is Phil McCallan Motorcycles in Lisburn. Phil McCallan's an ex-road racer from Northern Ireland here. He owns a big dealership and he does a suspension setup, and so I'm actually thinking that in order to get the best out of my bike, I'm going to leave it into him. I think he sets it up, he talks to you about your weight and what sort of riding style is, etc, etc, and sets it up basically based on what you tell him. Because I did find in some of the some of the rougher roads down south, of which there are plenty. It was a wee bit like riding a pogo stick. Could have been more of the roads than the suspension, but we'll get the suspension set up anyway. So hopefully now that we're coming into a bit of reasonable weather, I'm the sort of person that if it's dry at all, I don't mind going out dry and coming back wet. I just don't do wet out, because then you have to sit wet all day. So it looks like it's going to be a good day tomorrow, or at least I'm going to get to work dry. So here we are, coming towards the end of April. Temperatures are getting up, 11, 12 degrees. This is as good as we get. So folks, here's to a happy summer. Oh, one thing I'm planning to do is I want to try a track day. Yes, and I'm going to do the track day on my own bike, which means I'll be fairly sensible on the track bit day. But I think it's a very, very useful place to try and start to learn sort of the outer limits of the machine. And another interesting thing that my son and I are going to do, we did Bike Safe a couple of weeks back, which is run by the police service in Northern Ireland. Great course, great introduction to advanced riding techniques. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to book the both of us onto the Institute of Advanced Motorists course, and that'll take both of our riding hopefully up to a higher level. One very interesting statistic that the guys from the PSNI, who were all motorcyclists, one very interesting statistic that he had said, he talked a bit about accidents that he'd been to and fatalities of motorcyclists. He made the comment that he'd never been to a fatality that had involved an advanced motorcyclist. And to be quite honest with you, that's good enough for me. If that's not a good endorsement to have a crack at it, nothing is. So listen, thanks for your time. Thanks for listening. I'll keep posting a few more videos as my love affair with my bike deepens. But in the cold heart of day, in the cold light of day, it's an absolutely excellent bike. Even if you have an earlier model, there are enough improvements in the 2017 model to merit changing. If you've come to maybe 3 or 4 years on one of the more focused bikes, as in a race rep, I show you bring them out into my path. If you coming from a race rep and you're getting a wee bit more creaky, an absolute first class choice. If you've done your bit of adventure biking and realised that adventure biking doesn't really involve an awful lot of off-road, come and try the SX. It's very, very hard just in a test ride to explore the depths of the talents of this bike, but I can absolutely guarantee that when you've had the opportunity to ride it for 2,000-3,000 miles, 200-300 miles, you'll find out, but at 2,000 or 3,000 miles, without hesitation, I can recommend it as an absolutely fantastic bike. So guys, thank you very much for your time. I'm getting a new microphone soon, so hopefully in the next video the sound might be a wee bit better. So again folks, thank you, bye bye.